protesters are defying a ban on demonstrations and have called for a day of rage to press for democratic reforms. In Egypt, a peaceful demonstration is expected, calling for national unity between Egyptians following earlier clashes in the week between Coptic Christians and Muslims. In Yemen, protesters are expected to gather following Friday prayers, renewing their calls for President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step down. And in Bahrain, 7 opposition parties have called for a planned march demanding constitutional reforms. Protesters, too, in Iraq are expected to take to the streets post-Friday prayers demanding better basic services and jobs. And in Jordan, anti-government demonstrators are due to gather in the capital Amman demanding constitutional and legal reforms. Well, earlier in Saudi Arabia, security forces opened fire on protesters. They defied a government ban on demonstrations by demanding reform and the release of political prisoners. The rare show of dissent was in the eastern city of Qatif, which is home to the kingdom's Shia Muslim minority and much of its oil wealth. Bernard Smith reports.
A second day of protests in the eastern Saudi Arabian city of Qatif. This footage is from YouTube and apparently shot on Thursday, although it can't be independently verified. What sounds like the crackle of gunfire comes from the distance. Saudi police are reported to have opened fire to disperse the crowd. At least 2 people were injured. This restive region is home to mainly Shia Muslims. Neighbouring Bahrain is 70% Shia and has been racked by weeks of protests. These scenes are just the sort of contagion feared by Saudi Arabia's Sunni Muslim leaders. And so, in a region where most rulers have extremely deep pockets, the Gulf Cooperation Council has decided to try and buy itself out of trouble. Bahrain and Oman are to benefit from a multi-billion-dollar aid package from their richer neighbours.
$10 billion for the Kingdom of Bahrain and $10 billion for the Sultanate of Oman. We believe that this is an ambitious program, but it also shows the strong support that comes from the GCC countries to the Sultanate of Oman and to the Kingdom of Bahrain.
In protests in Qatif on Wednesday, the crowd chanted "Down with the regime" and "No Sunni, no Shia, we are Muslim." But the Saudi Sunni leadership is deeply suspicious of the role of Shia powerhouse Iran. There is a call for protests across Saudi Arabia on Friday, despite an official ban. Witnesses in the capital, Riyadh, say riot police have started patrolling around shopping malls and main roads. Bernard Smith, AlJazeera.
The unrest in Saudi Arabia is making stock market investors nervous. Japan's Nikkei index fell on Friday to a 5-week low. As well as worries about the world's biggest oil exporter, the unexpected trade deficit in China is fueling concerns about the health of the world economy. Worries, too, on Wall Street. The main Dow Jones index dropped almost 2%. That's the biggest single-day drop since August. To add to the gloom, the downgrade to Spain's credit rating caused the FTSE in London to fall 1.5%. Australian media are reporting leaked US diplomatic cables alleging Indonesia's president abused his power. The Age, an Australian newspaper, reported that Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono has been protecting corrupt politicians from prosecution. It also says he uses the country's intelligence service to spy on political rivals. The government is denying the reports, and the US ambassador to the country has just made a public apology. Well, for more on this, let's join our correspondent in Jakarta, Step Vasan. Step, I understand that you were at that press conference where the US ambassador was speaking. Tell us what he said.
Well, Laura, there were some really awkward and tense moments at that press conference at the Foreign Ministry, where the US ambassador was called in just after these very damaging reports about the president of Indonesia and his family. The foreign minister basically asked the US ambassador right in front of all the cameras to show his regret and clarify these leaked cables. And the US ambassador basically didn't deny that these cables weren't true, but he said that he showed his deep regret to the president of Indonesia and to the Indonesian people. He said, you should understand the nature of these kinds of cables. The reporting from the embassy to Washington is raw material, he said. It's not our policy. It's not U.S. policy. And the publication in the Australian media, he called them very extremely bad and very irresponsible, he said.
Now, what exactly do these cables accuse SBY of?
Well, the cables are very damaging about SBY and his family. The president is known as being at the front row to fight corruption in this country. That's how he was elected in 2004. And now, according to these cables, the American government thinks, or the American diplomat thinks, that he actually protected a political figure who happens to be the husband of a former president from going to jail for corruption. And the same person now is heading the People's Assembly, one of the highest institutions in this country. So this is very damaging, and this is, of course, something that anti-corruption activists have said for a while, that these are mostly the middle people, the lower people who go to trial, to go to jail for corruption. But like the big fish, like this person, always escape. And if this is true, this clearly shows that. Another really serious, damaging allegation in these publications is that the wife and the family of the president are actually using their position to get into very lucrative business deals. And another very strong, damaging report is that he is actually having the intelligence service following his opposition figures and also people within the coalition. So all in all, it's a very damaging report.
Seb Wasson in Jakarta, thanks very much. Plenty more still to come this half hour, including rescuers in China working against the clock to pull people to safety. And almost a year after Thailand's army crushes a rebellion, we meet one father still searching for answers.
Across the United States on Wednesday, we saw 16 tornadoes touch ground across the southern part of the United States, all due to this frontal boundary moving through. Now, as we go into Friday, not much of a chance of severe weather, so we're going to be seeing some clear skies there. Dallas looking fairly nice at about 23 degrees into their forecast, but up towards the northwest, very heavy rain showers in the forecast all the way from Vancouver down towards parts of Seattle, and also snow across the north central part of the United States as well. Let's make our way down to South America. We're going to be seeing some very heavy rains all the way from Rio and inland. They saw quite a nice carnival. Some showers were in their forecast, but now heavier rains are going to be pushing in. They're also going to be pushing down through parts of Uruguay and into Buenos Aires over the next couple of days. Also, unfortunately, more heavy rain is going to be in the forecast for La Paz. They had seen mudslides and landslides this past week, and more rain does not mean good news for them, unfortunately. High temperature of 13 degrees there. As we make our way towards Europe, the big story in Europe, of course, was a big snowstorm that went through Greece and then into Turkey. We saw immense amounts of snow in the region, up to about 200 millimeters of snow. They're going to be clearing out over the next couple of days, but the snow is still going to be a problem for traveling there.